In this video, we're going to have a look at requests for quotes during the estimating phase. You'll also hear me and some of our help articles and tutorials refer to requests for quotes as RFQs, just to abbreviate. We'll go through how they work, what the recipient, the sub, or the supplier sees. We'll also cover how you can help them reply, or how to enter a reply on their behalf if needed. And finally, how to pick a winner. Jumping into my BuildExact account now, and a quick intro point. If you're on a higher plan with the jobs features, you'll see two different requests for quotes areas. One in the estimating phase, and one in the job phase. In this video, we're focusing on the estimating phase, when you're putting your initial quote together. The other opportunity to use requests for quotes comes later in the job phase. That's typically used when you have a budget set but want to gather additional quotes, or if the scope of work changes and you need to send out a new request. But again, we're focusing on the estimating phase and sending requests for quotes here. In this example, I'd like to get a quote for framing. I'll select the line item of framing in my estimate on the left-hand side, and you can select multiple line items you'd like to send an RFQ for, but I'm just going to select this one. And down on the bottom of our screen, I'll click the option New Quote Request. Then a side panel will pop up, guiding me through the next steps. First, it asks for a title, and this doesn't need to be detailed. It can be just 1 or 2 words. I'll type framing quote. Next, you can adjust the deadline date, which defaults to 2 weeks. This gives the recipient 2 weeks to reply with their quote and also controls the reminders we send out. Below that, you'll see the line items you selected for the RFQ, and when I press next, it takes me into the scope of work options. Here you can attach pages from your plan set you loaded, takeoffs you've done, or other attachments that might be relevant and helpful to the recipient. There's also a text box where you can type the scope of work or add any other relevant details. Anything that you write in this box can be saved as a preset. That way, if you often type out similar notes, you don't need to rewrite them each time. You can just select the preset, let it populate the box, and edit it as needed. Finally, we'll add our recipients. You can add as many as you'd like, and when you click Add Recipients, the drop-down list pulls from your contacts phone book, where you store information for subcontractors, suppliers, and so on. If the person you want to send to isn't already in your contacts, you can add them here, and their information will be saved in your contacts phone book for future use. A common question we get asked is, if I send this RFQ to multiple people, do they know about each other? The answer is no. They only see their request and don't see any mention of the others you sent this RFQ to. There's also the option to add an invitation message. I'll add a message here, and this will be one of the first things the sub or supplier sees when they open our RFQ email. I'll go ahead and press send, and while I wait for this to come through to my email, we'll go over how to manage your RFQs during this process. Firstly, after you send out the request for quote, alongside the line item will be a blue tag with the letters QR and a number. This indicates you have an RFQ in progress for that line item. And if you click the blue tag, it'll pull you into our request for quotes screen, which you can always navigate to by clicking the Request for Quotes tab on the top bar of our estimate. The Request for Quotes screen will show you all of your current RFQs associated with that particular estimate. But you'll also notice the Request for Quotes tab on our main navigation panel on the left. This tab would show the running list of all of the RFQs you've sent for all of your projects. Now, if I'd like to see more detail about the RFQ I sent out, particularly I want to know if the recipient received it, if they opened it, and if they've responded, I'll go across my RFQ, and on the right-hand side is the option to Show Recipient. When I click that, it opens up to show the status, and for now, ours is notified, meaning the RFQ landed in their inbox. And this status will update in real time, so when they open the RFQ email, the status will change to opened. With that said, I'm going to hop over to my email and show you what the recipient would see and how they'd give us a quote. Here we are, and this is what our sub or supplier would see in the email. I'm jumping in to act like I'm the framing contractor, and this is just so that you can see their point of view. And what we would want them to do is click View Quote Details. From there, they'll see the location of the work, which is pulled from the location of our estimate, the deadline to provide their quote, your contact details, and the job details we entered earlier. Then if we scroll down, any attachments, plan pages, takeoffs that we added would be down here for them to view or download. Then we want them to give us a response. Are they interested? Yes, no, yes, but later. And this kind of starts to lean into how to help them reply, which we also have a separate video, and you can send it to them if needed, which just gives them a quick guide on how to reply, although it's intuitive for most. If they select yes, it will pull them straight into giving us a quote. Yes, later would be in the case of maybe they're on the job site and they do want the work, but they're busy and they want to enter in the quote numbers later. This would put the RFQ on pause and send them reminders to finish entering their quote up until the deadline date. And lastly, no, which closes out the RFQ and notifies us that they're not interested. When they select yes, it'll pull them in to see the items we'd like a quote for, and they can enter the total amount either with tax included or without tax. They then press next, and on the next step, they have the option to CC their business partner or project manager or anyone else to this. They can also attach any files for your reference that they'd like. And in our experience, it's usually easier for subs and suppliers to quote a few line items rather than if you were to send them 20 different items to quote on. Most subs and suppliers will provide the bulk of their detail as a separate attachment. And at the bottom, they also have the option to add any notes that might be relevant. After submitting, they'll see a confirmation message, and there is an option for them to adjust or reopen the quote they just submitted. And a common question that we get is, why do we allow them to reopen a submitted RFQ? The reason being is that we've had the scenario where they'll forget to include something, and instead of calling you, we give them the option to fix and resubmit it themselves. Back in BuildExact, you'll see the submissions and have the option to pick a winner. Important thing to note, if multiple suppliers were sent that request, you can only choose one for that specific request for quote. And if a supplier doesn't reply through the system, but gives you an answer another way, maybe through phone, text, email, or maybe you see them out on site and they tell you in person, you can still enter it on their behalf. Just click View alongside the RFQ, then over to the tab of Costings, and you'll notice the total box is editable. I'll make a change here just as an example, and when I press Save and Close at the bottom, a message will pop up saying it's been modified successfully, but do you want to notify the recipient of the changes made? A lot of users like this as a way to confirm everything is accurate and avoid disputes later. To select a winner, you'll check off the box Chosen, and BuildExact updates the price, including any applicable tax. For example, if a supplier quoted you $15,000 excluding tax, but you have in your BuildExact account to include tax in your estimates, the system adds the tax automatically and reflects the correct total. One tip, if you want to see how it works in practice, send a request for quote to yourself and test it out. That way you know exactly what the suppliers and subcontractors' experience is. And lastly, keep an eye out for the red alerts next to the Request for Quotes tab over on the left-hand side. These notify you when quote requests have been returned. And again, this tab will show you a list of all the RFQs you've sent across all estimates. And you can quickly click through them and review. And once you view a request, the alert will clear. That's all for now, but as always, if you have any questions, please let us know.